Hello, welcome back to Happy Breath Creations. I'm Jessie, and this is my channel where we explore all things art, yoga, and meditation. Today I have a sketchbook tour ready for us. Hooray! So get your art supplies ready, and maybe you're creating while I'm going through my sketchbook, or maybe you're just watching, or maybe you're going to sleep. I don't know what you're doing, but either way, I'm happy that you're here. This sketchbook is gonna be pretty short, I think. I think this will be a fairly short video, but it was a lot of fun to finish or fill this sketchbook, so I wanted to be sure to share it. So this is from my trip to Michigan. We flew into Grand Rapids, and then we drove up to Mackinac Island. Mackinac City, and then took the ferry to Mackinac Island. We stayed on the island for a night at the Grand Hotel, which you'll see some sketches of in the sketchbook, and then we drove the coast all the way down Lake Michigan, all the way back down to Grand Rapids. So it was a really great trip. Highly recommend taking that coastline all the way down and seeing all of the lighthouses. Unfortunately, this sketchbook doesn't have a ton of lighthouses in it, but the next few sketchbooks I think are probably going to be very lighthouse heavy, so those are coming. All right, so let's get started. First of all, this sketchbook is super cute. A friend of mine got this little miniature watercolor set for me for Christmas, I think, or birthday, something. And it's just, I had a lot of fun with it. I love how tiny and cute it is. I'm used to working out of really large sketchbooks, and so it was a big change to switch over to such a tiny little book. So on our first page here, this is just a little guy at the airport, and he was just sitting so still and quiet, and he was really just a fun person to sketch for that reason. This couple, they were just sitting in front of the window, just talking and getting along really well, and I don't know, I just wanted to sketch them, but they didn't quite come out the way that I had intended. They were a lot better looking in person. I of course got the window seat. You always got to get the window seat, right? So I drew the wing of the plane that I could see. And then, so I actually added watercolor into these later. I just did the sketches separately, and then went in, I think later that night or maybe the next night, with a watercolor brush. These were just two people sleeping on the plane. I don't know, I really like how these sketches came out. This woman had a tattoo, and so I tried to capture that. I couldn't tell what it was. She was across the aisle from me, and I was, by the window seat, so she was 3 seats over plus the aisle. So it kind of looked like the Canadian maple leaf, but I don't know. I couldn't tell what it was, so I just kind of scribbled it in. And she had this beautiful little beauty mark that I wanted to make sure to capture. Her glasses were interesting to try to capture as well. I think that might be the first time that I've tried to capture glasses in like a real life setting, like not going off of a picture and not going off of, not in an abstract way. Like this was just in real life, real time. I was trying to capture glasses, and they didn't come out terrible, but there's room for improvement. And then this guy sleeping was 2 seats over from me, and I really had a lot of fun sketching him. This was the row in front of me. I promise this whole sketchbook isn't just on the plane, but you got to do something while you're sitting there getting from one place to another. So these were just, I liked being able to see the tops of their heads. And so I made the seats really simple, and then sketched little scribble hair for them. This was my view outside of the plane. It wasn't, this isn't just one view though. I was just, you're going a billion miles an hour in a plane, so you don't really have time to sketch every single little thing. So I was taking bits and pieces from different areas and just kind of throwing them in there. These were, again, the seats in front of me. I left their heads out this time because I was trying to capture the perspective of the plane. I didn't quite get it. This part's wrong. But you know, it's all just a practice. When we got to Grand Rapids, we went to a little restaurant that had a kind of a long wait, and so I walked out onto their they had like a little patio type deal right on the lake, and I saw this guy up to his knees in the water fishing, and then this little duck was like kind of fishing right next to him, and I thought it was so cute, so I drew them. So that's the little duck's butt sticking out of the water. These were just some sailboats that I saw at the same place. This was just a boat on a dock, nothing super special about it. I don't really like how the sketch turned out, but I had to stop somewhere in here because our table was ready, so these are a little bit more rushed. This might be the one I had to stop on. So I don't know, I was just trying to capture the boat next to the docks. I think that was maybe my first time around like a bunch of boats on a dock all at once, and I really enjoyed the different colors on the boats and, you know, the movement of the water, and I don't know, just sketching really makes you slow down and appreciate your surroundings. It was a really good way to kind of start the trip, just to, you know, slow down and enjoy where I was. So this was at the garden in Grand Rapids, Frederik Meijer's. It's the Frederik Meijer's garden. It's a statue garden as well, and so this was in the little Zen, not the Zen garden, but the Japanese garden. And they just had a little pond, and you know, it's a little Japanese style area, so they had little structures and big rocks and water and trees and greenery, so I just tried to capture as much of that as I could. I tried to leave some white space just to kind of see what that does in a sketchbook, so I think that was, you know, an interesting route rather than trying to capture the water, just letting it be. This was a giant Buddha. Like, it was taller than me. It was huge. So I tried to capture it. It looks like he has scars all over his face. That's just the way that the rock was. I like the way that I captured his hair. That was fun to try to get. He was in and around these plants, so I just kind of scribbled some plants in. And then this was a separate little sketch. There were just a ton of lily pads everywhere. This was a really big boat. This was at our hotel room in Mackinac City where we stayed. The hotel we stayed in was just right on the water, so I went outside and sketched next to a bunch of teenage kids having a good time. All right, the Grand Hotel. Listen, if you ever get the chance to go visit the Grand Hotel, I highly recommend doing so. It's such a nice, fun spot to just go hang out. You have to dress up if you want to do the fancy dinner at night. You can't even go downstairs at night unless you're dressed up. So make sure you bring a change of clothes. They have rocking chairs out on the porch. It's this giant wraparound porch, and it's so nice. It has such a nice view. And this is an exaggerated version of what I saw. The pillar things were super tall, and I just wanted to try to capture that. So I made them really skinny and really tall, just to, you know, kind of signify how tall they were exactly. It was a fun place. They have tea at like, I think 3:00 every afternoon. It's a whole experience. It was one of my highlights of the whole trip, and I just really enjoyed it a lot. This is a lighthouse that we could see from our hotel room at the Grand Hotel. We stayed one night at the Grand Hotel. It's expensive, but I highly recommend it if you have it in the budget to spend. It's super fun, just a really interesting place to be. But this was a lighthouse that we could see from our hotel room, and it was really, really far away. And I realized like halfway through I had drawn everything so big that it needed details, but I wasn't close enough to be able to see details. So I ended up looking it up online to see what it looked like, and I made parts of it up. So I don't think this is, I don't know, there was some part of it that was completely different from what it really looked like. But you know, sometimes you have to improvise whenever you're making art, and that's okay. This was a giant chess set that was at the hotel. I was sitting in the rocking chairs rocking, and it was perfectly set up, like nobody had messed with it. And so I decided I was gonna start to draw it, and then these kids came over and started playing, and it was so cute, but also I was trying to draw it. So I tried to draw it from memory, but I think I've talked about this in other videos. I have aphantasia, and so I don't have any sort of visual imagination. And so it's really hard to try to capture things that I have seen before, but that are not, you know, right in front of me. So this is kind of how it turned out. My family ended up coming up, and they were ready to go on to the next thing, so I kind of abandoned ship. Just wasn't meant to be. So then we went and had dinner. They have this awesome little turtle statue outside. So it's actually, I think, like 4 or 5 turtles tall, and each one going up gets a little bit smaller. So I wanted to capture the whole thing, but my sketchbook wouldn't allow for it. I started the picture way too big and then ran out of room, but I was still pretty happy with how it turned out. I like the looseness in the rocks on the podium there, and the designs on the turtles' backs. They were really fun. So this is at the Grand Hotel again, just kind of playing with perspective. So we have these giant columns, and then here are the famous rocking chairs, and these little balconies here, and there are flags. They're actually flags that hang out over here that I didn't quite get. And then this up here, that part up there, is a little restaurant that you can go to and sit up there, and the view is just lovely. That is the lighthouse that I drew earlier, just much smaller and further away. And then this is another little lighthouse guiding people to the island, or rather, you know, telling people that there are rocks that they could hit. Oh, this little ship, it was decorated like an old pirate ship, and they shot like fake cannons off of it and stuff. So I just wanted to try to capture that. And then this was just a little sailboat that was going by, or a big sailboat rather. That's the same ship, just at a different angle. Okay, so this is it for Mackinac Island. The next day, after our stay on Mackinac Island, we took the ferry back down to Mackinac City and stayed there another night. And then we woke up the next morning and drove down the coast. In that time is when I saw all of the lighthouses and stuff. We weren't at each one long enough to be able to sit down and draw it. We were trying to get to Holland before, you know, nightfall. So we were not necessarily in a rush, but we were trying to get through them as much as possible so we could see as many of the lighthouses as we could. So we ended up in Holland, Michigan. And Holland, if you don't know, there's a little park there that is decorated like it's Holland the country. And so they have these really old windmills. You can go in and explore inside of the windmill. You can go all the way to the top. Well, not to the very top. You can go to the little balcony, I think was as high as you could go. So that was interesting. I sat outside and sketched it while my husband and his mom kind of walked around the little park area there. And I saw some ducks in a pond and moved on very quickly. So they have these bridges that are, you know, Holland inspired. So this is toward the end of the trip. Yeah, actually, this is in the airport, I believe. So I still wanted to sketch, but we were, stuck in an airport, and all the fun times were behind us. And so I brought out my phone and took out the pictures of all the fun things that we had seen up to that point, and I just started sketching away. So this is a giant horse. And when I say giant, I mean it's like 30 feet tall or something. It's crazy. And this is the same little sketch from earlier. So it's this thing, but closer up. This was a little bridge that was in the Japanese garden. I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's really sketchy and really fun. And then this, it was, he's not a giant chicken. He was just a normal sized chicken, but he was a little statue at the gardens. This was my view outside of the airplane again. I had every intention of kind of filling this in so that you couldn't see like where the airplane wing was on the inside of the plane, because you shouldn't be able to see that. But my pen ran out of ink, and so I just left it alone. This was a crow statue that was at the garden, and a little pig statue. I love how quirky the crow looks. He was not quirky in real life. The statue looks pretty realistic, but I love how just kind of like simplified and wacky he looks. And then the pig, I kind of love how sketchy he turned out. I think he's fun. This was a little like abstract version of a fox that they had there at the park. So the reason there are so many farm animals, they had farm section of the garden. It was based on what the farm really did look like, I guess. And so they also tried to, pay tribute, I guess, to all the animals that they had there. They had a big old rock that is holding itself up. Not rock, sorry, an arch. And so I tried to capture that. And then this statue of this guy with a really long neck. And then this guy was really cool. There's a book tied to a guy's head, and he's blinded. And it was kind of trying to signify that we take information blindly, I guess. So I kind of liked that it had a story behind it. It had meaning behind it. So I don't know, that was fun. More statues. There was a giant parrot type bird on a heart statue, so I drew that. And there was this giant spider. I don't know how tall he was, but you could walk under him for sure. And then this, naked lady statue without a head. These two were interesting. I have drawn them again since this one, so I don't love how he turned out. This one's okay, but they were facing each other, and this guy on the left was holding something, and this guy's kind of looking at him like, I don't know, maybe he's sad, or maybe I don't know. The interaction between the two statues, though, was palpable while you were there. Like, it was a really interesting setup, I think, of two statues. They told a story. These pages are upside down because I accidentally started it upside down. So let's see, this page, I was just kind of testing out my watercolors and how the page handled water. This was actually the first page that I did in this book, so I was just kind of testing, different materials, seeing how the paper reacted. And then that's just a little swatch of some alcohol markers. And this was our trip. This is a little map of the trip. So We flew into Grand Rapids, like I said, and drove up to Mackinac City, took the ferry to Mackinac Island, took the ferry back to Mackinac City, and then took this little route all the way down. We did stop in Traverse City. We did a bunch of wineries. Well, we did one or two wineries up the little peninsula there. And then Sleeping Bear Dunes is amazing. Highly recommend going there. And if you are in shape, in really great shape, go all the way down Sleeping Bear Dune. It's really cool. I didn't get to make it all the way down. We were kind of crunched for time, so I couldn't go down quite as far as I wanted, but it was still really cool, and I'm happy that I got to go as far as I did. And then we drove all the way down to Holland and then over to Grand Rapids, and we flew back home from there. And that, my friends, is the end of this sketchbook. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that this was, entertaining. I hope that you are making lots of art. Share in the comments what you've made recently. I would love to see it. And I guess that's it. So go make some art and have fun and have a great day and happy Sunday. And I'll be seeing you soon. Namaste, my friends.